Patton Sports videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on MoPattonSports.com. I want to thank you for joining the Patton Sports videocast for week 4. As you can tell, we're in a little bit different surroundings than we've gotten used to here. A little lightning, a little rain drove us into the locker room here at Lipscomb Academy as they are getting ready in the gym for their matchup with Overton, and that's one of the games that we'll be touching on here in a bit. But to start out with Kevin Smith here, we're going to take a look at Beach Hendersonville, which has grown into a really big game, I think, over the last few years. Both those guys were in District 9 AAA. They're now in Region 6 5A, and with Hillsborough kind of getting off to a little bit of a slow start, this game could mean a lot.
Mo, this game has become something too where there's a lot of star power, and right now Beach doesn't have the Jalen Hurds of this year, but however, they're still playing well. They're still a program that you have to reckon with, and Hendersonville, on the flip side, they do have some star power. They have Terrell Carter, who's a dynamic playmaker at the wingback and cornerback position. And then a guy I consider a little dynamo, Mike Harris at the running back position, a guy who's run for 200 yards already in a game this year. And we've talked about it before, but Hendersonville is a contender in 5A. In rivalry games, anything can happen here, but Hendersonville is going to be tough to beat.
When you look at Hendersonville and their wing T offense, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the triangle offense in basketball, because you as a coach, you don't really know where the points are going to come from. You don't really know where the yards are going to come from. You mentioned Mike Harris had 200 yards 2 weeks ago. I think he had about 70 or 80 last week. Jack Toe is another guy who gets a handful of carries but seems to make the most of them. I think he had a 20-yard touchdown last week. But Terrell Carter has been the constant for them this year. He's been chunking off 100 yards every game pretty much.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing about Hendersonville. Not only is the wing T already hard to defend anyways, but then they have good backs who are explosive and can go the distance for a touchdown. And then they got multiple backs that they can bring in and substitute in, so these guys are fresh. So Hendersonville's got the pieces. They got a nice offensive line. They got a good, calm, and steady quarterback, and they got multiple backs that can score on you, and that's a recipe for disaster for defenses. However, Mo, Beach has played them a lot over the last couple of years, so if there's a team that knows them, it's Beach, and so that's why we obviously give them a fighting chance in this football game.
And while Beach may not have the Jalen Hurd, they do have two really nice backs. Austin Van Zant, who missed the first 2 weeks, played last week against Glencliff, and Roderick Napper, who moved up here last year from out in West Tennessee somewhere, I think Haywood maybe, but they have become a nice little 1-2 punch, or they've been a nice little 1-2 punch when they're both in the game, and that will be the case this weekend. So, you know, like you said, in a rivalry like this, they're in each other's backyard, a couple of Sumner County teams. You got to give Beach a puncher's chance in this one anyway. Another game we're going to take a look at, Cane Ridge, who went to Hendersonville last week, lost 42-25. They go to McGavock this weekend. Non-region game, but a couple of metro teams meeting up.
Yeah, and you know, going back to Cane Ridge, they had 2 shutouts to start the season, had a tough matchup with Hendersonville, but still showed some fight coming back in the fourth quarter. So Cane Ridge is a team to watch out for. They have a young man named Isaiah Owens who's a great receiver that teams are trying to stop, which is opening up their run game. And I really like their linebacker, Noah Bayless, that he's making plays not only in the run game, but he has shown that he can drop in coverage on film and he can pick passes off and then score. So Cane Ridge has an opportunity here. And we've touched on this a little bit, but we like McGavock. McGavock is a very talented football team with a great coaching staff led by Jay Gore. They are somebody to be reckoned with, and this is going to be a tough matchup for Cane Ridge.
Jay has quietly done a really nice job over McGavock. I remember him when he was an assistant out at BGA back when he didn't have gray hair and I didn't have nearly as much, but he's been around for a while and he's done a pretty good job over there. Were you with him at Brentwood?
No, I was not, but he did a great job at Brentwood. I even think he's actually coached here at Lipscomb Academy as well, so yeah, kind of his old stomping grounds here. But he's done a great job with that program of getting the kids to buy in. Something we've talked about a little bit with Maurice Fitzgerald at Stratford and Coach Crawford coming back to Brentwood. Jay's done a really good job of going in and and putting confidence in those young men and helping them believe that they can win football games. And now you're starting to see a program developing where now you're seeing consistency year in and year out.
They're coming in 2-1, and they've got a player at quarterback, DeMontez Carlton. You call him Monty. Maybe not the greatest skilled quarterback, but a heck of an athlete. Really makes things happen offensively for them.
Yeah, Monty makes plays, and when you have a great athlete at quarterback, things open up for you, and he does a great job with his legs, but he also does a great job not only throwing screen passes and bubble screens, but he does a good job of throwing the deep ball, and then he can also get out in the open field. You have to decide as a defensive coordinator versus a guy like Monty, again, do I want to blitz him or do I want to sit back? And either way, he can make plays and get that first down to extend drives, and that is very hard to defend.
Had a big game against Lebanon last week. They won 37-7. He had 233 yards rushing and throwing the ball. So he's a guy who can make it happen on both ends, like you said. Another game we want to take a look at, Father Ryan and Pope John Paul II. They call that the Bishop's Cup game, the two prominent Catholic schools here in the area.
Yeah, and I'm looking for Father Ryan to get back on a win streak here with losing to McCallie. It's a team, Father Ryan's a team that can line up in their option game and can run right at you and cause some problems defensively. They also have enough in their package where they can spread you out and throw it a little bit. But the headliner is Jeremy Darvin on the defensive side of the ball. He's a very explosive athlete, does a great job getting off the football and disrupting plays. He's got to have a big game because JP2 has a young man, Ben Brooks, at quarterback, who's a really good quarterback. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, Mo, he's also a Memphis University baseball commit. So he's just a good overall athlete, can throw the ball around, can really spin it. So Jeremy's going to have a great game on defense for Father Ryan to win this game.
Another guy that's going to have a great game on defense for Ryan is probably Bryce Vickers back in the back end at linebacker. He's another guy, like you said, with Ben Brooks doing what he does at quarterback. Defense is going to have to step in there for Father Ryan and make some plays.
Yeah, and they do a good job. They run a 3-4 scheme, and they're going to do a good job of trying to get pressure on Ben. And that's what you got to do. I mean, you can't let Ben sit back there; he'll pick you apart. So Father Ryan's going to have to find some ways to bring some pressure, also disguise where it's coming from, and then do a good job in the back end of the secondary because Ben will pick you apart if you just let him sit back there.
Both these teams coming off losses, like you said. Ryan fell to McCallie last week. JP2 lost to Brentwood Academy last week, so they're both kind of coming in looking to get something good going this week.
Two tough matchups, Mo, for both teams, and those are two good quality teams that they played. So this is a good game for them to both get back out on the field, correct their mistakes from last Friday, and try to get back on the winning track.
Another game we want to take a look at is these Mustangs here at Lipscomb Academy. They've got Overton coming in here this weekend.
Yeah, if you like smash mouth football, this is a game for you. Both teams are going to run it, and they're going to have power rushing attacks, led by Kimberly North at Overton. He's had quietly has had a good couple of games here the last couple of weeks running the football. But a guy I really like, Mo, is Elijah Pinkney. He's a wide receiver and a DB. He had an 82-yard fumble return for a touchdown, had a 17-yard touchdown reception last week. But he's so fluid in the open field and makes guys miss. Lipscomb's going to have to be great tacklers when he gets the ball out in open space or he's going to score.
You know, Overton's got some athletes, and Steve Williams in his second year as coach over there. It's kind of had a time getting everything moving in the same direction. But Overton goes down to Franklin last week, gets a big 41-20 win in region play, and I'm sure they're going to come in here with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and they did it with a physical style of football, and that's what's going to be great about this game, because on the flip side, Lipscomb Academy has also got some large human beings over here on their football team, and they got a couple of playmakers as well. So this is a game. They had 3 different kids score on offense last week. They caused 4 turnovers and recovered 4 fumbles in last week's game versus Clarksville Northwest. So Lipscomb has some pieces too to line right up at you and come with their wing T offense. So the key for Overton for me is can they read their keys and not look in the backfield? You look in the backfield and those backs mess with you, you're going to have a long night on defense. So this is a smash mouth football game that if you like running, if you like rushing attacks, this is the game for you.
You talked about some large human beings. We saw David Floyd coming out of here going up to the gym a little bit ago, one of our Dirty 30 picks, size 18 shoe and everything that you can imagine that goes with that. And Rutger Reitmeyer is a junior two-way lineman who is probably going to be one of the top prospects in the mid-state next year. So they've got some guys to block for the guys like William Phillips and those type guys up front. We're going to step away for a second and come back with some more. Patton Sports Videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on mopattonsports.com. The law practice of Allen D. Hall, PLC is grounded in providing exceptional legal services with the utmost trust and integrity. Legal services Allen provides include employment law, confidential investigations, general business law, risk management, and regulatory policy interpretation and drafting. Ultimately, if you need consulting solutions, Allen D. Hall needs to be your choice. I2 Integrity Insurance. I2 Agency was started with one primary focus in mind: helping people. As a multi-line insurance agency, we do that in a variety of ways with a full portfolio of products. Whether it's life, health, dental, Medicare, annuities, or home and auto insurance, we design solutions that will meet your individual needs. Another big non-district, non-region matchup. Pearl Cone goes over to Christ Presbyterian. Pearl Cone, scheduled tough. I think they kind of knew coming in that they could be 1-2, and that's where they are. They lost to Hillsborough early. They lost to MBA, picked up a win last week. They go to CPA. This is another tough one for them.
Yeah, I like what Coach Bernetti did. I like that he's put his team through that. He's got some veterans. He's got a veteran quarterback in Jimmy Farrell. He's got a veteran receiver in Rontavious Groves, and he's got some pieces on defense that they feel really good about. So I like what he's done. Same thing with CPA. I really love what Ingle Martin has done. He is scheduled up as well to get – both teams are trying to get ready for the playoffs. Not saying either team doesn't want to win this game, but it's not a game that you have to have. It's a game that you're trying to see where you stack up early in the season to get you ready for the playoffs.
You know, and Kevin, I think that this type scheduling approach is a byproduct of getting back to a playoff system, a classification system where your regular season wins and losses aren't as important to your postseason prospects.
Yeah, and these are the matchups we want to see, Mo. And so I am thankful for that has happened. I remember, Mo, back in 2011, we had to play. I was actually a coach at CPA. We had to play Pearl Cone twice early in the year or late in the year, and then turn around and play them in the playoffs. These are some classic matchups that CPA and Pearl Cone have had over the years, and like you just touched on, they haven't been able to play. This is, to me, going to be another classic matchup between two great football teams and good football programs.
Yeah, and like you said, it's games like this that you want to see, and it's games like this as a coach and as a team that you want to play in because you need to play good people to be ready in November.
Yeah, these kids want to play these games. I mean, we got some star power in this game. I'm really looking for Zach Weatherly to have a great game for CPA at quarterback position. Joseph Richard is going to have a really big game on the defensive side of the ball to contain Pearl Cone's playmakers, and we already touched on Pearl Cone having multiple playmakers on their side. So those kids want to play each other too, Mo. And the coaches want to play against each other, and the communities want to get together. So I'm really thankful that TSAA has allowed us to get back to some of these classic matchups.
You know, one playmaker we didn't touch on for Pearl Cone is Keywan Vaughn, who's your big brother. Keyshawn Vaughn had 11 carries, 43 yards, and a touchdown for Illinois over the weekend. So I'm sure Keywan will be going out this weekend trying to maybe one up a little bit.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Mo, CPA had a little trouble last week with White House Heritage run game. I think White House Heritage ran for over 300 yards. One of their running backs ran for 175 yards. So that's something that CPA is going to have to improve on this week to be ready, not only for Pearl Cone's run game, but to also limit their big plays over the top.
And you have to deal with one to do the other, I think,
yes.
Because if Keywan gets off, then you're susceptible to the play-action pass. So it all kind of flows together there, I would think.
Yeah, and John Orr, a Princeton commit, linebacker for CPA, looking for him to have a really big game. He's a really good football player. He does a great job reading his keys, knows where to go, knows where to fit in his gaps. So he's going to have a big game with Joseph Richard on the defensive side of the football for CPA to win this football game.
Okay. One thing I noticed about CPA as I was going back over some box scores and that kind of thing, they've had a special teams touchdown in 2 of their 3 games. Had a kickoff return down at Peachtree Ridge, had a punt return this past week against Heritage. So they can make it happen in special teams as well.
Yeah, when you're a head coach and you can get special teams touchdowns, those are luxuries, and defensive touchdowns for that matter. It really helps out your ball club. It gives the momentum to you. It's a big downer for the other team, and so those are luxury points for you, and you're always looking to try to get a couple of those.
Okay. Another game we want to take a look at, Smyrna at Independence, and this game may look a little different on Friday night than we anticipated it looking at the start of the year, because Andrew Bunch, Independence's stud quarterback, will be on the sidelines in a brace on his right elbow. Sounds like he hit his elbow on a helmet against Centennial a couple of weeks ago. Did not play against Lincoln County last week, and they're really being cautious with him for obvious reasons, so he won't play against Smyrna.
Yeah, this is another matchup, Mo, that I'm really excited about because of the new classifications that we can have a 5A Independence play a 6A Smyrna. This game, to me, Mo, we've got a really good defense in Smyrna that's only allowing 10 points a game versus an offense that, let's give Coach Blade credit, last week, made some adjustments at halftime without his star quarterback, came out and ran the football with Adam Swayze, and we talked about a gutty performance on the podcast. So it's going to be interesting to see what Smyrna has on film and what they think they're going to have to stop and what Independence may do this week. I'm really anxious to kind of see how this game opens up.
Yeah, I was, again, looking forward to seeing Nate Johnson, Independence's receiver who is committed to Purdue, and Smyrna trying to get Ikenna Okeke on him, their cornerback. That was going to be kind of the headline matchup, I would have thought. And I'm sure we'll see that, but I'm not sure we'll see it as often or see Independence go at Okeke as much in that matchup.
Well, I think what you'll see, Mo, and both teams do this, Smyrna does a good job of getting KK the ball as well. They like to get them on pops, on screens, tunnel screens. They like to just flip it out to them and give them the football. Now, and then that's where it's going to come down to, can Smyrna tackle Nate Johnson in open space? And I think Smyrna has some of those players. Smyrna, on the flip side, Mo, they do a good job of mixing the run and the pass. They have a really good quarterback in John Turner, and they have a running back that's, in my opinion, underrated. I don't think people know about in Casey Perkins, that runs the ball hard. He can make big plays in the run game. So Independence, on the flip side, is also going to have to be really good defensively. And we've touched on that in our podcast, Mo, that we think Independence has done a great job defensively. And that's a matchup I'm looking forward to seeing, is can Independence's defense slow down Smyrna's offense as well.
I'm really excited to see John Turner, 3-year starter at quarterback, like you said. Kind of been unheralded a little bit over in Rutherford County, overshadowed by some of those other programs over there. But you don't start for 3 years at quarterback and not have something to you. So I'm interested to see this kid Friday night. Another game we want to take a look at, Waverly and Fairview. And we've talked a little bit about Fairview over the past few weeks. They kind of got off to a rough start, finally won one last week. They go to a Waverly team that throws it around a lot.
Yeah, they better have their pass defense ready. It's kind of a little bit of a nightmare for defensive coordinator from Fairview. What happens sometimes, Mo, is we've touched on this too earlier in our podcast. I have a lot of respect for defensive coordinators at the high school level, because one week you might have the wing tee, the next week you may have I formation, the next week you may have a team that spreads it out and runs it 40 times, or spreads you out and throws it 60 times. What a lot of times you don't see in your region play, that Fairview is a team that's literally going to throw the ball 50 times. And it's very difficult to get your kids ready for something like that and then simulate it in practice. So it's going to be a really tough game for Fairview and their defensive staff.
And then from the standpoint that Fairview, I talked to Chris Hughes during the preseason, talked to him after the Page game. One of his concerns about his team was depth. And so when you're facing a team that's throwing it that much, and you've got so many of your offensive skill players having to play on the defensive side of the ball as well, and you're running chasing those guys on patterns like that, that can be a long night.
Yeah, and that's where Fairview is going to have a really good game plan, and they're going to have to establish the run game, and they're going to have to control time of possession. And if Fairview can do that, they can limit some of Waverly's pass game and running their skill players all over the field. So Fairview is going to have to do a really good job of running the football and establishing that run game, and then taking some shots over the top with some play action passes.
Another big game, Franklin and Brentwood, and it won't mean nearly as much as it did when they were both in the same district, but you won't be able to tell those kids that. And again, Ron Crawford, Brentwood getting their first win last week up at Rossview. They're coming into this thing feeling like they're finally getting some things put together. Franklin coming off a tough loss at home against Overton.
Yeah, Franklin's kind of been up and down, and talking to their coaching staff, they kind of expected that a little bit with a young football team. Brentwood, on the other hand, with an impressive win over Rossview. We're talking about a Rossview team who put 48 on Beach earlier in the year, and Brentwood shut them down completely to 6 points. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I hate, Mo, that it's a Franklin 6A and a Brentwood 5A now with all the new classifications, but it doesn't matter for either community. This is going to be a huge game for both of them. And Mo, they both need a win here. They both want to get to 2-2, get to that 500 mark, and kind of propel them to the second half of the season here with a big win versus a rival.
Crawford dropped a number on me that kind of took me off guard when we were talking. He said in his 10 years that he was there the first time before he went to Cleveland back in 2012, in his 10 years at Brentwood and Franklin played 16 times.
Yeah, and what happens is in the old system, I was actually a coach at Brentwood for 2 of those years where we had to play Franklin 4 times in 2 years. If your region or your district was really good, you would always end up having to replay them in the playoffs. And what most of the time you would see is whoever won in the regular season would turn around and lose in the playoffs. So it was kind of give or take there, but some classic matchups over the years were versus Brentwood, or with Brentwood and Franklin. And this to me is shaping up to be another classic game for both programs.
We're going to step away. We'll be right back. John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors Mo Patton Sports Videocast. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook. John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building. I2 Integrity Insurance. I2 Agency was started with one primary focus in mind, helping people. As a multi-line insurance agency, we do that in a variety of ways with a full portfolio of products. Whether it's life, health, dental, Medicare, annuities, or home and auto insurance, we design solutions that will meet your individual needs. The law practice of Allen D. Hall, PLC is grounded in providing exceptional legal services with the utmost trust and integrity. Legal services Allen provides include employment law, confidential investigations, general business law, risk management, and regulatory policy interpretation and drafting. Ultimately, if you need consulting solutions, Allen D. Hall needs to be your choice. Kevin, another game. We've talked about both these teams a lot here to this point, and one of them we're still trying to kind of figure out. Hillsborough and Riverdale.
Yeah, Riverdale. I went to the Riverdale Blackman game last week, and man, they have some impressive looking players, and they got a lot of speed. So we're just kind of waiting for them to kind of quit beating themselves. And Coach has even said that. He's acknowledged that. And then Hillsborough on the flip side, talk about another coach, Coach Clayton, who has put together a really tough schedule for his team to try to get back to the state championship game. And this is not going to be any different. You're talking about a game that's going to have some really, really explosive plays with some great football players and great skill players. This should be a fun game to watch.
When you're playing a Riverdale, a team that has a lot of talent, a team that you thought was going to be good coming into the year that has struggled, is that one of your things as a coach? We don't want to be the team that they put it all together against?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a team that you don't want to see in the first round of the playoffs either. After struggling early in the season, you're a team who's gone 10-0, and you know a talented team like Riverdale struggling to get going in the beginning of the season. All of a sudden, they figure it out. That is the last team you want to see. And so Hillsborough on the same side. Hillsborough, they're praying that they're going to get the same turnovers and same penalties from Riverdale that Riverdale's been giving everybody else. So now, let's not take any credit away from Hillsborough. They are talented on their side of the ball as well. So this is going to be a really fun matchup with a lot of good players going at each other. And to me, Mo, it's going to come down to who can run the football, because we know they both can throw it deep and go get the football. It's going to come down to who can establish the run game.
You know, and for Hillsborough, DeAndre Alexander played probably the most he's played all year. Last week, I think he had a 67-yard touchdown run. So nice little change up for them off of Jeremy Hill in the running game. They've got their two big backs back there.
Yeah, and when you have two big backs that can now take some pressure off, with the ability to throw it over the top to a receiver like Jay King, man, it really opens it up. It makes you explosive. This game could come down, Mo, to a special teams play. Riverdale has some kids on both the punt game and the kickoff game that they can return for touchdowns. Hillsboro does the same. They're going to have to be really good tacklers on special teams to win this football game.
I've seen Malik Fleming show up more on offense for Hillsboro than I had anticipated. Safety, who has already committed to Mercer, thought he was a defensive ace. So I think he's got at least 2 touchdown passes already.
Yeah, he's a really good football player, a guy that you need to go watch as well. He is really, really physical on defense at the corner position. Does a great job of tackling. Can also play man to man, and then he's showing his versatility by being a receiver for him as well. Fun player to watch. You need to check him out.
Another game we want to take a look at real quick: Ravenwood and Centennial at Centennial, and Centennial. Looks like they are going to be down to their 3rd quarterback this week. Blake Lovell broke a collarbone over at Dixon County. Tristan Piscani was already hurt. So all of a sudden, what we expected to be a deep run in the postseason type Centennial team is kind of trying to figure some things out.
Yeah, and this, in my opinion, Mo, this can only make them tougher. They're going to find out about some kids. Some more kids are going to get into play, which they'll be ready as the season continues to move on. They'll get more and more reps. But this is a tough time to meet up with a Ravenwood. And the reason I say that, Mo, is last week versus Mount Jewett was a classic trap game for Ravenwood. They've started off really strong. A Mount Juliet team that's kind of struggled to start the season. Ravenwood did not play as well as we've seen them play. They were able to win that football game, which shows, again, their depth and them knowing how to win. This is not a good point if for me, if I'm Centennial, that I want to try to come in.
Because Will Hester has gotten them refocused this week.
He's got their ear now. He can now go in and coach a little bit where those kids don't think, that they're too good to listen to him coach. This is a tough week for Centennial to draw Ravenwood.
Finally, a game that we touched on a little over on the podcast a couple of days ago, Page and Forest.
Yeah, this is a game that's been close the last couple of years, and another game that's kind of a sneaky rivalry, and it's a classic matchup between two teams that are completely different. Forest is going to try to pound the football. They're going to try to run right at a smaller Page team. Page is going to turn around and say, we don't think you know how to defend the pass. And they're going to have their big quarterback and some great skilled players, and they're going to throw it all over the yard. So it's going to be interesting to see who can will their game on the other one.
Okay. We made some picks last week, or we tried to make some picks last week, and I guess it's time to kind of take a look at them and see how we did or what we did or didn't do. Lincoln County Independence, I think we both had Indy in that one.
Yeah, and we've touched on it. Great job of the coaching staff at Indy. Gutty performance by Adam Swayze. All around, the stars showed up in Nate Johnson. Big-time win for Independence without their star quarterback. Nice
showing by Lincoln County. That's a team that's going to win some games, but this season. I think that they are going to be a factor in that Region 5-5A down there. I really like the left-handed quarterback. Eli Eason did a good job spreading it around. Overton Franklin.
Yeah, I believe we both had Overton in that game, or did we both pick Franklin?
I had Franklin.
Okay, I may have had Franklin too, actually. But we actually didn't think that Overton would be able to stay disciplined enough on defense versus Franklin's offense. And great job by Overton. They made plays in the open space. They caused turnovers, and they did a great job shutting Franklin down on defense. So kudos to Overton with a big win there against Franklin.
Big region win. Yeah, those are always good. Page and Spring Hill was a Thursday night game, and I believe we both had Page in that one.
Yeah, we both took Page. We thought they were going to win. Didn't think they were going to win with that large of a margin. But again, Page is a team that at the beginning of the year we didn't really know about, and they are sneaking up on us here, and they're kind of putting the Mid-State on notice that they might be for real in 4A.
Riverdale Blackman. I think we both had Blackman. I don't think either of us expected it to go the way it did, 38-0.
No, and we touched on, again, Blackman having to make some special teams corrections, and they did. They're the team, actually, that came out and blocked the punt, got them on the scoreboard, did a great job on defense, ripping the ball out, turning it into points. And then in the third quarter, the most impressive thing for me, Mo, is getting a 3-and-out on defense and then turning that, and then the next offensive possession, marching down the field for an 8-minute drive that completely took Riverdale out of the game.
Taylor Dowdy is really starting to show up as one of the better running backs in the Mid-State.
Yeah, and I don't know if people know this, but he's also their shutdown corner. He's a guy who they want to get the ball to 20, 25 times a game in the run game. But on the flip side of that, when it's a passing down or a big situation on defense, you can hear the coaches screaming for Taylor Dowdy, put him in the game, and he makes plays at that cornerback position. And he made a couple plays the other night on big deep balls where he knocked them down.
And you don't expect that in 6A to have a guy going both ways like that, do you?
No, not typically, but when you got a player of his caliber and his skill, you do kind of spot him. So you can bring him in spot duty on defense, or you can bring him in spot duty on offense. And for Taylor, he's kind of their bell cow at the running back position, but he's their spot duty corner when they need a big play.
Okay. Cane Ridge, Hendersonville.
Yeah, Hendersonville, we both thought we're going to win. We both kind of thought that it was going to go, they were going to get away from them a little bit, Cane Ridge, in the second half, and that's exactly what happened. We've touched on it. Hendersonville just has a lot of pieces. If they can stay healthy, they're a team to contend in 5A.
Okay. And Macaulay Ryan.
Yeah, we both picked Macaulay. I kind of thought it would be the game that was. Macaulay is super talented. Didn't necessarily think that Macaulay could shut down Father Ryan's offense the way they did. So I'm looking for Father Ryan to get back into the film room, work on themselves, and get back on a winning track here versus JP2.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be one of the games that we'll pick. So you've already picked Ryan against JP2. I'm going to go that way as well. Beach Hendersonville.
Yeah, I got to go with Hendersonville. It's a team I love. They got too many weapons. I got to pick Hendersonville.
They do have a lot of weapons, and they just kind of bludgeon you. I think they ran for 410 yards last week. It's ugly but effective.
Yeah, and as a former defense coordinator, we've been talking a lot about offense. We've got to talk about Hendersonville's defense. That's another reason why I really like them, Mo, to make a long run, because their defense is really stepping up as well.
Cane Ridge, McGavock.
I love McGavock in this matchup. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, because Cane Ridge has the proper pieces and enough players to slow down McGavock. But I love what McGavock's coaching staff has done in building that program to where they expect to win, and I expect McGavock to win Friday night. And
I think the key will be DeMontez Carlton. When things break down offensively, that's a guy that can make a play.
Yes, sir.
Overton Lipscomb.
Yeah, this is kind of a tough one. Overton's been a little up and down defensively. Lipscomb's had some really close ball games here in their first two games and trying to get their offense going. I like Overton in this football game. I think that they're going to be more physical, and I think it's going to be really tough for Lipscomb to tackle some of their players in the open field. For Lipscomb to win this game, they got to cause turnovers, and they got to tackle well on special teams in an open space. Otherwise, this game could get away from them. But Lipscomb has enough pieces to keep it close and to win. I just like Overton to kind of take over in the second half.
In a pick that I've gone back and forth on a lot, I'm going to roll with you. I'm going to roll with the Bobcats in this one. I just think that, Pankey's probably able to make a play. Like you said, Kimley North can make a play with their speed. That may be the difference right there.
And we've talked about some programs in Pearl Cone and CPA and some coaches putting together some tough schedules. I'd like to also give credit to Coach Tillman for putting a 6A team on his schedule, and he's thinking the same thing. Let's put an Overton, a 6A team on our schedule to get us ready for the 4A playoffs. So you got to give Coach Tillman credit for playing this football game.
Pearl Cone CPA.
Yeah, this is a tough one. There's some classic matchups that have really come down to turnovers. And CPA has done a great job of creating turnovers this year. I don't expect anything different. I think Pearl Cone will move the ball. I think they'll score. But I think at the end of the day, CPA will do enough to turn Pearl Cone over, and then CPA's offense is good enough to turn those into points. I'm going to have to go with CPA in this one.
I've said it more than once. I think CPA just finds a way to get it done in games like this. I like CPA. John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors the Mo Patton Sports Videocast. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook. John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building. Finally, Smyrna Independence.
Yeah, a game that would have been even tougher to pick for me if Andrew Bunch was playing, and I still think it's going to be a close ball game. I think it's a great matchup early in the year, but without Andrew Bunch, I just don't know if Independence is going to have enough offense and enough wrinkles to attack a really good defense in Smyrna. And I think Smyrna's got enough playmakers. It's going to be difficult for Independence to stop them too. So I like Smyrna in a very close ball game.
I think you're absolutely right. I think Indy's going to come out. They showed that they can run the ball last week against Lincoln County. As much as they will want to run the ball against Smyrna, I think they've almost got to try to establish something in the pass game, because if they get one-dimensional offensively, I think Smyrna will have enough to stop their run game.
Yeah, and no offense to Lincoln County, but Smyrna is a completely different beast. And if Indy is made into a one-dimensional football team, it'll be a long night on whichever way that goes. So Nate Johnson's going to have to make plays for them, and then Smyrna's going to have to do a good job of not turning the football over and rallying to the football to tackle some of Independence's really good skill players.
I like Smyrna in this one as well. That's going to do it for Patton Sports Videocast for Week 4. For Kevin Smith, I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see you at the ball game.